Imagine crawling through a narrow crevice, your shoulders scraping against the rock walls, where darkness is absolute. Every movement must be calculated. Each one could mean the difference between life and falling into a bottomless abyss. You are 30 meters underground, inside one of the most dangerous cave systems on the planet. And then, your flashlight slips and illuminates something that shouldn't be there. Thousands of bones, human bones, but not quite human. This is not a work of fiction. It is the account of one of the most disturbing discoveries in modern anthropology. A species that challenges everything we thought we knew about our own evolution. A species that lived at the same time as us, yet seemed to have gone backwards on the evolutionary scale. A species that may have been far more intelligent than its tiny brain suggested. This is the story of Homo naledi, the Starman. To grasp the magnitude of this discovery, we must first understand our own lineage. The genus Homo, which ironically means man, does not belong solely to us, the sapiens. We are merely one piece in a macabre puzzle of over a dozen species that emerged, fought to survive, and eventually vanished into the mists of time. Around 2.8 million years ago, something changed. The left jawbone, known as specimen LD 354-1, marks the moment when our ancestors took their first step toward becoming what we are today. Since then, every new Homo species seemed to follow a predictable pattern. Less primitive, more derived, with larger brains and more advanced technology. An inevitable march toward progress. The Rising Star Cave in South Africa is no place for the faint of heart. It's a subterranean labyrinth that challenges even the most experienced spelunkers. Scientists had to recruit individuals with exceptionally slender builds, mostly women, capable of wriggling through openings less than 20 centimeters wide. Marina Elliott, one of the so-called underground astronauts, described the experience at times. She had to exhale completely just to squeeze through the fissures. A single deep breath in the wrong place could trap her forever. But what they found at the end of that claustrophobic journey would forever change our understanding of human evolution. It wasn't just a skeleton. It wasn't scattered fragments. It was more than 1,500 bones, representing at least 15 different individuals, men, women, children, and elders. An entire population preserved in total darkness. The first analyses were shocking. Radiocarbon dating placed the remains between 335,000 and 236,000 years old, practically contemporaneous with early Homo sapiens. Yet their features told a very different story. Standing just 1.43 meters tall and weighing under 40 kilograms, Homo naledi was small even for the standards of its time. Only Homo floresiensis, the hobbit from Indonesia, was smaller. But while floresiensis evolved through island dwarfism, a common evolutionary process in isolated environments, naledi lived on the African mainland. There was no clear reason for its reduced size. Their hands told an even stranger story. The wrists and thumbs were modern, almost identical to ours, but the other fingers were long and curved like a chimpanzee's. It was as if evolution had crafted a chimera, part modern human, part ancestral primate. If the hands were puzzling, the rest of the body was a complete paradox. The feet were astonishingly modern, with a well-developed arch and toes aligned for upright walking. The pelvis, gluteal muscles, and bone attachments indicated an efficient biped, capable of covering long distances. And yet, those curved fingers and shoulders positioned in a way suggesting they still spent significant time in the trees, revealed an evolutionary contradiction. How could one creature be both an efficient groundwalker and an expert tree climber? The answer may lie in the harsh environment they inhabited. The South Africa of the Middle Pleistocene was in flux. Ancient forests were giving way to dry savannas. Trees, once abundant, became isolated islands in a sea of grass. Naledi may have been forced to retain both abilities, climbing when trees were available, walking long distances when they were not. Their teeth revealed even more about their existence. Though small, they had exceptionally thick enamel, a primitive trait that went against the evolutionary trend toward thinner enamel seen in other Homo species. Even more telling was the wear pattern. Their teeth were in poor condition, showing evidence of a diet filled with abrasive particles. Microscopic analysis told a grim truth. They ate from the ground, literally raw tubers ripped from the earth, still covered in sand and grit. A diet of desperation. The enamel defects painted an even darker picture. Growth lines interrupted by periods of extreme stress, signs of brutal winters, scorching summers, and famine etched permanently into the teeth of naledi children. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared scientists for what they found inside a naledi skull. With a cranial capacity of just 610 cubic centimeters, its brain was tiny, smaller than a chimpanzee's, comparable to that of a modern human infant. By established evolutionary logic, such a small brain should mean primitive behavior and limited cognition. But when researchers created endocasts, molds of the brain's inner cavity, they found something impossible. The naledi brain had a surprisingly modern architecture. The frontal lobes linked to planning and complex decision-making were well developed. The Broca's area, associated with language, showed expansion. The overall organization suggested cognitive abilities that shouldn't have existed in such a small brain. The greatest mystery of all, however, was how the bodies ended up in that deep chamber. The route to the naledi chamber is a claustrophobic nightmare. A 12-meter vertical drop, followed by a passage called Superman's Crawl, so tight you must extend one arm forward and keep the other pressed to your side. Then come more vertical drops and squeezes narrowing to less than 20 centimeters. There is no alternative entrance. Geological studies confirmed the cave has always been like this, perhaps even harder to access in the past. There were no signs the bodies were dragged there by water or predators. No carnivore tooth marks, and no other animal remains apart from a few rodents and birds that likely fell in by accident. The conclusion is both impossible and inescapable. Someone or something deliberately placed those bodies there. If naledi truly buried their dead in that deep chamber, the implications are staggering. They would have had to navigate in absolute darkness, carrying bodies through impossibly narrow passages. They might have needed light, torches, or something similar. Yet no evidence of fire has been found. More importantly, deliberate burial implies awareness of death, ritual, even spirituality, behaviors we normally associate only with large-brained humans. If naledi, with its tiny brain, was capable of this, then everything we thought we knew about the relationship between brain size and intelligence may be wrong. The bones painted a grim portrait of naledi life: healed fractures, signs of disease, and evidence of nutritional stress. Each skeleton told a story of constant struggle for survival. Children suffered the most. The enamel defects showed they endured repeated episodes of severe stress, famine, disease, and freezing cold. But they survived. Someone cared for them. Someone fed them when they couldn't forage for themselves. Curiously, there was no evidence of violence among them. No smashed skulls, no weapon marks. In a brutal world, they seemed to have lived peacefully with one another. Around 236,000 years ago, Homo naledi disappeared. We don't know how or why. Maybe the changing climate became unbearable. Maybe competition with other hominins sealed their fate. Or perhaps it was simply bad luck. Small populations are fragile. A long drought, a disease, a few consecutive harsh winters could have wiped them out. The fact that all known fossils come from a single cave system suggests they were never numerous. Perhaps Rising Star was one of their last refuges, a place where the final survivors came to bury their dead as their world collapsed around them. Homo naledi forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own nature and evolution. They show us that evolutionary progress is not a straight line but a chaotic tangle of experiments, some successful, others doomed to extinction. They also show that intelligence and consciousness may exist in forms we don't yet recognize, that creatures with brains the size of oranges may have developed behaviors we once believed unique to humans. Even more unsettling, they remind us that we could easily have been them. In some alternate universe, it might be naledi descendants studying our fossilized bones, wondering how creatures with such unnecessarily large brains failed to survive. Deep within the Rising Star cave, the bones of Homo naledi remain in their final resting place. Each expedition reveals new details, new questions, and new mysteries. Scientists continue to descend into that subterranean world, facing claustrophobia and danger in search of answers they may never fully find. Homo naledi reminds us that we are merely the lucky survivors of an immense, relentless evolutionary lottery. For every species that thrived, dozens vanished into the shadows of time. They were our cousins, our contemporaries, perhaps even our equals in ways we still fail to understand. Somewhere in those dark caves among bones accumulated over generations, lie answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. Homo naledi, the Starman, continues to watch us from the past, a silent reminder that not everything in nature follows the rules we create for it. And perhaps in some yet undiscovered chamber, in some unexplored cave, the last secrets of naledi still wait in the dark, ready to rewrite our story once again. Darkness guards its secrets jealously, but sometimes it lets us glimpse the truth. And the truth about Homo naledi is stranger, more disturbing and more wonderful than any fiction could ever be. They lived, loved, and buried their dead with care in chambers almost impossible to reach. And then, silently, they vanished forever, except for their bones and the endless questions they left behind.